What is your "this is how I die" moment? I miscalculated the depth and how long I could hold my breath the first time I tried diving to 8-10 meters. Everything went bad, to be honest. I had some pain across my face and ears when I reached the bottom, and my lungs shrunk so much I did not feel any pressure from the air inside me. That was the good part though. While going up I ran out of breath halfway through. I almost died there, and the aftermath was not pretty either. My first pregnancy was ectopic. I was home alone when my tube burst. My husband was working. I thought I just had very bad gas until I tried to stand up, and the next thing I knew I was on the floor and I'd hit my head on the wall. It didn't occur to me that I'd collapsed. I don't think it registered how much in bad shape I was. I couldn't even dial 911. I could only press the speed dial for my husband. By the time we got to the ER, I was vomiting uncontrollably and the pain in my belly was spreading everywhere. Apparently, I was bleeding internally pretty bad. I only realized how bad it was when I saw my reflection in the mirror and I saw my lips were bluish. They were asking me what my religion was for last rites, just in case. 15 Yo surfing in Baja California. Was not paying attention and this wave hits me, sends me tumbling underwater. At one point I face-planted into the ocean floor with my legs going over my head in the wrong direction. At the time I swore I could hear something crack and I was thinking, this is it. This is the end. I am probably paralyzed and I would not be able to swim to the surface. Turns out I was okay though, probably had a concussion but never went to the hospital. When I resurfaced my friend was staring at me wide-eyed thinking the worst had happened. Early in my wife's and I courtship, I mistakenly called her my ex's name. Not during intimate time, just normal conversation. My friend was driving and I was clueless to the fact he was intoxicated until he was already ripping down the streets super fast. I wrote a will to my dog and everything. When I was a teenager, my older brother got violently angry that I was watching TV in the living room late one night and choked me until I began to black out. I remember mentally praying, Lord, forgive me for my sins and please allow me into heaven, but didn't try to fight back. I was severely depressed and not super religious but hopeful that there might be something else after life and didn't want to blow my shot. When I didn't give any visible reaction, he let go of my throat and punched me in the face. Then cried because he realized he almost killed me. As it was, I only ended up with a black eye, a couple bruises on my neck and a pounding headache. Drowning. Everything went slow-mo after I started panicking and I just accepted it. It was whitewater rafting, had a full wetsuit and life jacket, but I got thrown out and could not get back in. I am a strong swimmer and just could not understand how I was not able to keep my head up. I got tossed around, went over a small waterfall, and washed up in a calmer area on the bank. Just threw up all over myself hanging onto a branch. On a roller coaster at Valleyfair, Minnesota, went on one of the biggest rides. I was very skinny at the time and the safety thing they put on you couldn't even touch my chest. On the first big drop I literally levitated. My shoes were coming off and I just stayed silent. My body was going up and to the front of the seat. I legit thought I was gonna fly off. August 20th, 2012. I was 10 at the time and my father's car broke down, so he took the bus and picked me up from school and brought me somewhere to eat. When my mom finished work she picked us up, and as soon as we went home, right as my father opened his passenger side door, a mugger with what I remember carrying a double-barrel shotgun threatened my father's life, saying, demanding, "Shut the frick up and give me your mother ducking money." My father pushed him and got out the car to fight him, but my father getting out the car gave the mugger enough time to shoot his shotgun at him, leading him to fall on the floor. His whole chest exploded open for everyone to see. I was mortified. I had never since then felt like that ever. My body immediately ran to him, tapping his face, bawling my eyes out. I still remember the way the blood smelled on my hands, the way his eyes looked so dead inside. The mugger then came to us to get his wallet, but I thought he went to come and kill me too, and that was my "this is how I die" moment, and I put my hands up and begged him not to shoot me, but this evil man stole my father's wallet and left in a black van with his goons that was parked behind us, leaving what was now a broken family. In 2022 it will be the 10-year anniversary, and it will also be the moment where I will live more without him than with him. I am also going to visit his grave for the first time alone on that day, and I am really nervous. Was in a car with my mother about to pick up my uncle who was stuck in the snow when we almost slid off the road and into a large valley. Jumped off a boathouse and had the wind knocked out of me. Couldn't swim since I couldn't breathe. Thankfully someone noticed there was something wrong and dropped into the water to help me out. Threw away food my mom spent hours making when she was standing right behind me. How are you not dead? In 2008 or 2009 I went to Murree, Pakistan with my family. When we were on our way back, extreme snow conditions stopped the traffic completely. After some time we were stopped on a slope with a complete traffic jam. Roads were super slippery, so much so that parked cars would just start sliding and fall down the cliff, but my parents saved us all and we left a place that we now refer to as heck without a scratch on our car. My father's extreme driving skills and my mother who got out to look for bricks to block our car's tires and the praise of our grandparents got us through and we survived. 3 people died that day and many were injured. I was cliff jumping with friends into a deep pool of water. The thing with this cliff is that if you do not run and jump, you would not have enough distance to clear the shallow part with death rocks. We dived off this cliff 2 times already, and on my 3rd time I slipped at the end of the cliff and was not able to jump. All I could do was push off the cliff with my hands as I slid off it, missed the death rocks by like 2 foot, have not gone cliff jumping since. I jammed a screwdriver in a computer power supply and blew it up. Thankfully held onto the plastic part of it. Realized I could have died afterwards and gained a few BPMs. One day I turned onto a busy street in my neighborhood that's usually obstructed by cars that park on the street, and even after looking both ways the second I turned another and I stopped right in front of each other and almost had a head-on collision. It was seriously so scary. I am very certain I had one. I hit my head so hard I do not remember what happened that day. ATVs are fun as long as the steering bar does not break while you are on trail with a 5-6 meters drop on the side doing 30-50 km/h. Lost control of my car and started to fishtail, then started to roll. As I was rolling it was all going so slow, I thought I was gonna hit something and that was going to be the end. Scary. I got extremely drunk and made the poor choice to eat a huge chunk of edible weed later on. I fell into intense delusions, got the spin so bad that I felt like I was frisbeeing into sky, and my heart rate was so high that my chest, back, head, arms and were throbbing. I remember asking to be taken to the hospital, but was denied by the people around me. I laid down, tried hard not to fall asleep, because I was almost certain that I did die in my sleep. I eventually decided to just let go, and if I died, I died. I was at a swimming tournament where suddenly I had an asthma attack, and this is like 25-foot deep water in the middle of a 50-meter pool, so I realized that I needed to find something to get me up and let me breathe, but I just sank, realizing I could not do anything, and I felt the water going into my lungs as I got deeper down. I was still struggling. I woke up a few hours later in the hospital. I got lost in the mountains in a rainy and foggy day. They were really steep mountains and I almost called the firemen to help me. I could have driven off the cliff. When I got us out of there I stopped the car and bulged into tears. I was 11 years old and I was sledding on a very steep hill in my grandmother's yard. I was on one of the plastic toboggans with no brakes, and I was sitting up. I decided to slide down the other side of the hill without looking what was down it. I got off to a pretty good clip, and then saw a giant piece of farm equipment at the bottom with a sharp piece of rebar pointed right at me. I tried to steer but had no grip on the ice. Right then, I realized and accepted that I was going to die. The only thing that saved me was a large rock that my outstretched feet hit. While the rebar spike was 6 inches from my chest, I was lucky to only escape with a sprained ankle. Looking back on this, it is a sobering thought that I was 11 years old and accepting my death. This still freaks me out. I was having swimming lessons when I was like 8 or 7, not sure. I am not clear of what exactly happened, but I have a rough image. I was learning to outride water when some 10 to 13 looking boy grabbed my foot and held me under in front of the entire class. And me being a 8 or 7-year-old could not hold my breath for much longer than 17 seconds. So my body started to give up and the boy let go and my body just flew up. So I told the instructor and he said I was lying. Back in January of this year, I had 5 severe asthma attacks in the space of 48 hours. The last one came in the early hours of the morning and I was coughing so violently that I was throwing up. Genuinely was afraid to sleep in case a 6th attack finished me off by having me choke on my own vomit. It was terrifying. I got my leg cut on an oyster shell on a deserted island. I was bleeding out and was at a high risk of infection and I was an hour away from mainland. Luckily my family had some alcohol and bandages and disinfected the wound. This happened 4 years ago and I still have the scar tissue. The reason this fit here was because I was in deep water at the time I cut it, but luckily we were at the sound zone of the island. 2 times in my life have I actually gone up to that edge and looked down. One when I was 11 years old, I nearly drowned at a pool party. 2 when I was in my early 40s. I was at a Taco Bell waiting for my order when a group of armed robbers burst in yelling and cursing at everyone, telling us all to get down on the floor. There I was laying on the filthy floor of this Taco Bell next to the soda dispenser. A guy with a crowbar is standing over me going through my wallet and I am literally thinking, so this is how it ends. Obviously I made it through. That was probably one of the top 35 plus days I did ever had. When I was 6 with pretty small and underdeveloped teeth, I got my first taste of asparagus. Those of you that don't know, you have to chew it pretty well before you swallow. I was casually eating my meat and potatoes, then moved on to the veggies. I was chewing normally and went for a swallow. Then bam, I was choking like I had rope tied around my throat. My twin sister was looking at me crazy with absolutely no idea what was going on and had no intentions of getting involved. So for a solid 30 seconds I was feeling like I was going to black out until my mom ran out of her room and pulled the shit right out like starting a lawnmower. If it took her any longer than that, I probably wouldn't be here. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.